All right, let's get right into it. Every single time you send a message or buy something online or log in to work from home, you're actually inside this huge invisible fortress. And that fortress? That's cybersecurity. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the blueprint that protects our entire digital lives. So, what are we actually up against here? Well, the cyber threat landscape isn't some far-off, techie concept. No, it's the battlefield that our modern world is built on. I mean, think about it. Mobile money, remote work, all the stuff that makes life convenient. It all exists in this constant back and forth between emerging threats and the defenses we build to stop them. Okay, so before we can build a fortress, you've got to know your enemy, right? So this first part is all about meeting the digital villains of our story, the malware, the different types of attacks, basically all the weapons they use to try and break through our defenses. Now, the most common weapon out there is something called malware. You can just think of it as a big umbrella term for any piece of software that was specifically designed to cause trouble, to harm your computer, mess up a network, or steal your data. It's really the starting point for most cyber attacks. And one of the nastiest types of malware out there is ransomware. This stuff is, well, it's basically digital kidnapping. It gets into a system, locks up all the important data with encryption, and then demands a huge payment, a ransom, to get it back. It can literally grind an entire company or hospital to a complete halt. And then you've got this classic trick. It's called a Trojan for a reason. It works exactly like the Trojan horse from the stories. It pretends to be a useful, legitimate piece of software. You download it thinking you're getting a cool new app, but what you're really doing is opening up a secret back door for attackers to just waltz right into your system. So people use the words virus and worm all the time, but they're not the same thing. And the key difference? It's all about how they spread. A virus needs a person to do something, like click on an infected email attachment. It needs you to give it a ride. A worm, on the other hand, it's a whole different beast. It can copy itself and spread across a network all on its own, infecting machine after machine automatically. No human help needed. But, it's not just about getting bad software onto your computer. The bad guys have ways to attack the entire network itself, taking down services that thousands, sometimes millions of people depend on every day. And a perfect example of this is a denial of service attack. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine someone deliberately creates a massive 100-mile-long traffic jam to block every single road leading to a city's main hospital. That's a DOS attack. It just floods a website or an online service with so much junk traffic that nobody who actually needs to use it can get through. Okay, so we've met the villains, we know what they're trying to do. Now let's talk about the good guys. We're shifting gears from the problem to the solution. And it all starts with this core philosophy that's behind all cybersecurity. This is called the CIA triad, and it is the absolute foundation of security. So C is for confidentiality. That's about keeping secrets, making sure only the right people can see the data, like your mobile money pen. I is for integrity. That's about trust. It means making sure the data is accurate and hasn't been secretly changed, like your bank records. And A is for availability, which just means the system is actually online and working when you need it to, like an e-passport website. It's a balancing act, really. Making something super confidential might make it less available. The whole game is finding the right balance for the situation. So how do we actually achieve that balance? Well, the answer isn't to build one single perfect wall. The real strategy is to create layers of defense. This is where we get into that idea of building a digital fortress. And this image here just perfectly captures that whole idea. Good security is never about one single thing. It's a system of layers, one inside the other, like an ancient castle. You can see on the outside, you've got things like firewalls. As you get closer to the center, you have protections for the network itself, and then for the applications. And then, right there in the very middle, protected by everything else, is the treasure, the data. The idea is simple. If an attacker gets past one layer, there's another one waiting to stop them. So that very first outermost wall of the fortress, that's your firewall. Think of it as the main gatekeeper for your entire network. It stands there and inspects every bit of traffic trying to come in or go out. And based on a strict set of rules, it decides what's friendly and gets to pass, and what looks suspicious and gets blocked. That's great for when you're inside the fortress, but what happens when you're not? I mean, these days we're all working from coffee shops, airports, our homes. We're outside the main walls. So how do you stay safe then? Well, that's exactly where a VPN, a virtual private network, comes in. Look at this diagram. It shows you exactly what it does.
It creates your own private, encrypted tunnel through the public internet. So even if you're on a sketchy public Wi-Fi network, all your data is shielded from anyone trying to eavesdrop. It's basically your own personal armored car for the internet superhighway.
Now, all those network defenses are absolutely critical, but often the weakest link is the final layer, the actual device in your hands, your laptop, your phone. In security terms, we call that the endpoint, and it needs its own dedicated set of armor.
And protecting that endpoint really comes down to just good, regular maintenance. System hardening, that's like going around and locking all the unnecessary doors and windows on your device so there are fewer ways for someone to get in. Patch management, well, that's like fixing the cracks in the walls. It means keeping all your software updated so that known security holes get plugged. And finally, endpoint protection systems. Those are your guards on the wall, like antivirus software, that are actively looking for and stopping threats in real time.
But here's the thing. All the best technology in the world isn't enough on its own. To have a truly secure digital society, we also need rules. We need laws. We need ethics. We need professional codes of conduct to guide how we all behave online.
And these rules have been evolving for a long time. It started way back in 1990 with laws that just made basic hacking illegal. But as the internet grew, the laws had to grow with it. Now we have things like the EU's GDPR, which sets a global standard for how companies have to protect our personal data. The law is always trying to keep up with the technology. Now that word hacking, it sounds bad, right? But it's not always. Ethical hacking is actually a super important profession. These are the good guys who are hired to think like the bad guys. They follow this exact methodical process to find the weak spots in a company's defenses. But here's the key difference. They have permission, and their whole goal is to find the vulnerabilities before the criminals do and report them so they can be fixed.
So we've got the tech, we've got the laws and the ethical hackers. So what's missing? What's the final crucial piece of this whole puzzle? Well, it's you. Let's talk about the role you play in all of this. So why should all this matter to you personally? Because you are the most important line of defense. Seriously, the technology is the fortress, but you're the one opening the gate. Simple things you can do right now, like using strong passwords and turning on multi-factor authentication, keeping your apps updated, and just being a little suspicious before you click on a weird link. Those actions are incredibly powerful. They are the keys to the kingdom. And this right here, this quote just ties it all together beautifully. Cybersecurity is the technology that physically stops your data from being stolen in a breach. But privacy laws, those are the rules that say how your data should be handled ethically in the first place. You can't have one without the other. They're two sides of the very same coin. Which really just leaves us with one final thing to think about. We've built all these incredible layers of defense for the world we live in today, but our digital world is always expanding, always changing. And that makes you wonder, what's the next threat on the horizon, and what will be the next layer we have to add to our digital fortress?